Hi, I'm Chris Perea.
And I'm Mike Perea. One of the problems with seascape photography is overcomplicating what we want our photos to be about. We could have crashing waves on some rocks or a pier one way. The tide could be coming in or going out. We could have some sand on one side, and trying to create an impactful photo could be a bit overwhelming when trying to look at everything and trying to look at the big picture.
In this video, you will learn how to use one single step to make more impactful seascape photos.
Now, what I want you guys to do is pretend you don't have a camera. Pretend instead you have a pen and a notepad. Now, I want you to write down what you see happening in front of you. What is grabbing your attention? What sticks out to you? What don't you like? This will make it much easier to choose a subject, determine the mood of your images, and you can start to build and compose the elements of your photo. In this first example, well, I lost my audio to begin with, but rest assured I was saying something absolutely life-changing. Unfortunately, we'll never know what was said. But as I was sitting here watching these waves, what I noticed was that the waves would come crashing over this rock shelf, creating a really beautiful waterfall. The waterfall came down into this channel where it would head back out to the ocean. This entire event is what really captured my attention. If I was to have a notepad, this is exactly what I would be writing down. And my goal was to create a photo that really brings all of that to life. None of these things happen at the same time. You can see this happening in front of you, but to include all of this into one photo is a challenge. At this point, I have my subject. I have a waterfall coming in from the right. Then I have some leading lines as the water heads out to the ocean. The light is really nice and soft from the morning sun, and I know that the tide is going down, so I'm safe from being stranded out on a rock from a rising tide. Because this is a really dynamic scene, I want to create that mood in the photo. I want it to be intense and dramatic. So in order to accomplish this, I want to get up really close to the action. I grab a wide angle lens and I get as close as I safely can. Now, the next creative choice I'm going to think about is shutter speed. Because I want this to be impactful and intense, I want to show the motion of the waves, but I don't want a shutter speed too long to where I lose detail in the water. I decide at about 1/5 of a second. This takes a little bit of experimenting to kind of see, and could be anywhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of a second. On this particular photo, or this particular occasion, I decide on 1/5. I had to put a 6-stop ND filter on to get this shutter speed. I put my camera in continuous high and start firing off images as the waves come in up over the rock shelf and then retreat back out into the ocean. That way, I have a lot of different possibilities of the wave shots at different times in post-processing. What I end up doing finally is blending the images together to tell a complete story. So even though these 3 images that I've taken were taken maybe a couple of seconds apart, blending these 3 images together tells the complete story of the scene and what's actually happening. I blend in one photo for the waterfall, one photo for the retreating lines of the ocean as it's going back out to sea, and one more photo for the waves in the background. So I'm going to show you guys a few more examples here of this same exact concept and style where I'm blending multiple images together to create a complete story of these scenes.
So now, after all this excitement, we are going to calm things down a little bit. In this photo, the texture of the ice piece in the foreground was what drew me in. This would be something I would write on my notepad. It was polished like a diamond and almost transparent. It was also in great contrast to the 2 blocks of ice right behind it that were all rough and not transparent at all. But as you can see in the first version here that I took, the black sand is too much contrast for the delicate ice and makes the diamond look like it's floating in all of that dark empty space of the foreground. So I needed another element to tie together the texture of ice and sand. The incoming wave was a great element to tie the two together and have these textures blend in together. But as you can see in this second version, the water can also add total chaos to your photo. There is no separation between the subjects now. There is too much texture involved and it makes it difficult to see what is actually shown here. The photo that I ended up with is this one right here. I already knew I wanted this to be a square crop and eliminate a big part of the sand in the foreground. And this is the final result after editing. The receding wave left the sand wet and enhanced the soft texture. What I like most about this photo is the small puddle that formed underneath the diamond and the light reflecting off the wet sand. The lines in the water tie everything together without one of the elements being too dominant. Here are a few more examples of tying together different textures in your seascape photos.
The weather plays a big role in this next type of seascape photography in my mind. A lot of times when it's overcast and gloomy, the weather isn't very good as far as light goes, it's very flat, or anytime we're in Scotland, I immediately think of really long exposures. Now, you want to really simplify your subject. An obvious one is piers or docks, picking out one subject that is static while everything else around it moves. This is a great opportunity to take in a minimalist approach. This is really the only time that I use my 10-stop filter. So by choosing a simple static subject, then using a 10-stop filter, you smooth out and eliminate all other distractions, all the moving elements, leaving a very minimalist photo and a much more ethereal mood than any other type of seascape photography. This photo was a shutter speed of 330 seconds. I took a photo at 1.6 seconds as my base exposure. Then after adding a 10-stop filter, using my exposure calculator on my PhotoPills app, it gave me a total time of 330 seconds. I hit the timer at the bottom and then my shutter button at the same time and waited. Now I find that the longer the shutter speed, the better when it comes to smoothing out all the details in the water. If you look at this photo here, even at an exposure of 30 seconds, you can still see the surfers and some texture in the water. So the longer the better. If you can do 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, it will really smooth out all that texture in the ocean, giving you that truly minimalist feel because you don't want any type of texture when you're really trying to do minimalist photos. Here are a few more images with this same type of style and concept. If you're interested in more seascape photography and more about the settings that we use, click on this video on Chris's face. Now this is more of a vlog style in the field video from Iceland where we actually get our camper van stuck. So thank you guys so much for watching and we'll see you in that video. Bye.
Bye.